And I'll give you an example of this. I was doing a gig only the other day, and I do worry that this idea of offense or idea of trying to sort of show that moral piety has become a badge of honor. So this is
Mm.
a genuine thing that happened. I was emceeing, and I went on stage, and there was a couple in the front row, and it was absolutely lovely. And I was just chatting, and I was like, "Oh my goodness! Like, how did you guys meet?" And the girl said, because it was a heterosexual couple, the girl said, um, I was at the bar, and he came over to me to talk, and someone from the left hand side of the room went, "Oh my god!"
Oh God.
And
Mm.
I was like, sorry, what? And she was like, well, and I think she implied something about rape culture, or sort of said like, oh, that she's a vulnerable girl in a bar. And I was like, she didn't say, oh yeah, I was in a bar, he got his dick out and came over to me. Like, that is offense worthy. But that's how people used to meet. And I find that odd.
And that's the really weird part, right? That we use, like, I remember a friend who's not even a comedian, but because people watch comedy now, I think they have a right to say people are funny or not, but they go beyond that, right? Whether it's
Mm.
like if I listen to music, doesn't mean I go tell John Mayer how to write a song, right? Or I critique how a
Yes.
musician should be. I shouldn't like, okay, because I, listen to 5 hours of Spotify, it doesn't mean I can enter a debate with other musicians saying, no, this is what it means to be a musician. That's bullshit. I feel there should be a line where if you don't know too much about it, yeah, you can appreciate a joke or you can get pissed off with a joke, but it doesn't mean how you tell comedians or actors or artists how to do their fucking job. And I think that's the problem now. Everyone thinks they can tell artists how to do their job because that's what they appreciate or what they don't appreciate. And I think that's where you draw the line because, hey, artists are so different and each person has a different kind of expression and each person has something they find interesting, funny, um, revealing, whatever it may be, inflammatory, but that's their right as an artist to do. And the society needs all of it to make it more diverse and inclusive because that's what diversity and inclusion is, right? It's all of it. And none of it should be kind of taken away because a certain person says, oh, that's not my cup of tea, you know?
But I think with that inclusion, I think also there should be an inclusion of saying, "Oh, that's not in my wheelhouse." How often do you get people nowadays saying, "Oh, I don't know about that"? And I think the problem with things like social media, etc., is that it makes everyone feel that they have to have an opinion on everything. Whereas,
Yeah.
like with politics, like I don't know. A great example of this, and it sounds like a name drop. It's absolutely not meant to be, but this is relevant to the kind of the context is that I was emceeing another club the other day, and Russell Howard was opening. Now he's
Mm.
one of the biggest comics in the UK and very sort of famous over here.
He's really
And
exploded, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, big time. And he's like going on to do a world tour. Lovely guy, genuinely an incredible comic. And I sort of said, went on, did my bit, blah blah blah, and said, "Ladies and gents, please welcome to the stage Russell Howard." Now everyone kind of went mad. It was brilliant. I went outside, and as I was walking to the wings, a girl stopped me, and I sort of said, "Oh, come into the green room, have a chat." And she just said, "Oh, I didn't find that joke that you did about Ireland funny." And there was kind of like a pregnant pause, and I was like, "Okay." Okay. And she was like, "I just thought I should let you know." And it was only later when I told someone this, I was like, it's such a weird moment. I was like, you have left the room, so you're not going to see one of the most famous living British comedians that is working in our time, just to tell me. And it wasn't like I'm offended. It wasn't you shouldn't say this. It wasn't said you said anything wrong. It was just, oh, I didn't like that joke. And it's such a weird thing to say. And I do feel lucky that doing stand up, it gives you an outlet for all of those emotions. Perhaps that's what's going on. Perhaps people that don't have a creative outlet now feel that social media has given them a platform to just tell people that, and by extension they're just going around all the time kind of it just seems so odd just to say, oh, I didn't like that joke. I'm like, oh,
You know what that
okay.
sort of sounds like? It's almost like, I'm going to say this and at the risk of maybe pissing off people, but you don't really need, okay, you need to be smart or you need to be a little strategic with being successful on social media. And I'm not saying as a YouTube video creator or a blogger, I'm saying with reels,
Mm.
Um, so I feel what's happening is people can become quote unquote famous by replicating stuff out there or by making a quick TikTok reel or an Insta reel and get a lot of people to say, wow, that's hilarious, or share it and make these kind of huge leaps in kind of the fame category and then get influencer status or whatever, right? Not for their talent, but just for being smart about what they do. But then a
Mm.
person who writes a joke doesn't really get much fame because it's a weird world, say. So this person feels, oh, you know what? I'm famous. It gives me a chance or a right to say something about someone else's art or performance or talent. And I think that's absolute bullshit because if you don't like something, you don't like it. You don't have to,
Yeah.
kind of pipe up and kind of give your thoughts. And because I don't think anyone wants to hear, like, yeah, you know what? There are musicians who you like and I like who've gone through bad phases, right? Like someone's like, oh, U2's this album is shit. It's not like I'm going to go meet Bono and say, hey, Bono, you know what? it just, it just sounds stupid, right? I mean, with whatever, like, even if I don't like, if I don't like a band, I won't listen to them until someone says, hey, you might like them now. They've evolved into this kind of particular version of what their music is. And it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine to bitch about that music with your friends. But does it give you the right to go up to the musician and say, hey, here's a suggestion. Why don't you try electronic and from classic rock? Like, come on, right? Like, this sounds ridiculous. But because, say, you and I or other comedians who aren't the Chappelles of the world or the Ricky Gervaises of the world, we are in their eyes. I think because they also know that Netflix and Amazon is not going to buy the funniest special. They're going to buy the special with of a comedian who's got the most followers
Yeah.
on social media, and that validates that social media is more important, or your social media footprint is more important than your true talent or your true art or your true way of expressing it. And I think that's a problem.
Oh, absolutely. My agent the other day said, "Yeah, you should go on TikTok," and genuinely, it's one of the nicest things that I've ever. In that moment, I went, "Absolutely not. I
Yeah,
don't need any more social media in my life." And
yeah.
genuinely, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, and I
It's
was
so
like,
liberating. I
"Oh,
just
mate, it's beautiful."
I just hate. I felt so pressured, man. I mean, it's kind of uh, in the past, fortunately, but kind of being a certain version of yourself for a certain social media platform, and that opens you up like a social media a marketing person say, oh, your jokes won't work on social media, you need to write jokes about this, and there'll be a point I'm like, oh sure, I need to change for social media, and I feel like such a jackass even thinking back at what I would say. And that's what it is, like you're pulling your hair, trying to be on every platform, trying to be the quickest to the punch, the funniest, the most compact, the most concise. And what does that do to you? It tears your mind apart, right? Because you're not really
Which
doing.
all it is a popularity contest. I've
Yeah,
always said humans don't grow up, they just get taller. And to give an example of that, I remember, and it's like, I'm not going to come across as holier than thou. I'm just as bad as people, because I think sometimes you get fed this idea so much that you accidentally start thinking, oh, I want that. But it's just been, a great example of this was when I was growing up, the yo-yos became a massive craze. And I remember being at home trying to like do this one trick on a yo-yo. And I hated it. It was like doing homework that was never going to get marked. And I
yeah.
just remember having a conversation with myself and being like, well, look, if you don't like doing no one's making you do yo-yos, Dave. And it's exactly the same with social media. I feel like a lot of people feel they have to be on there because that's what you're told. But actually, if that ain't your thing, that ain't your thing.
Yeah. And I feel it's not just the audience, even the comedians are, I think from what I hear, and it's generally like there's this kind of smugness going, you know what, I'm a comedian, I'm a reflection on society. I'm like, come on, you're just a person telling jokes, man. I mean, really beyond that, like when you hear people like on podcasts, whoever it may be, from mid kind of popular to even really popular, it's just too much noise, right? Like you have these people like, oh, James Acaster took a pot shot at Ricky Gervais, and Ricky Gervais then or Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. What does the world think? I'm like, are you fucking serious? This stuff doesn't deserve attention, man. Because comedians are just supposed to get up there. I mean, I remember, like, the Fringe, you see some of the funniest comedians who get absolutely no recognition, but then you get some of the people who are so perfectly marketed that they get the best reviews, they get the best kind of deals, and it has nothing to do with funny. It's just about marketing. But actual funny is raw funny, right? I mean, I could be completely off point with this, but this is what I feel like when you're on a stage telling jokes. What's your job? Not to change society. It's to be funny. That point, right?
I genuinely can't tell you how like lovely that is to hear, because the amount of podcasts and stuff that I do where people will start using terms like zeitgeist and all of these kind of things and going like, yeah, well, actually the true comedian is the reflection back at society in the mirror that they didn't realize was there. It's like, it's not. It's just telling dick jokes a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I do. You can over intellectualize this stuff in order to
You can
try
make
and
it
make
over
you feel
important,
like some
right?
god.
Give
Yeah,
yourself a
absolutely.
more larger kind like a mantle that you need, because like, and that when that happens, when and I think that that's the thing, right? Typically all this stuff would be done by non-comedians. Like, you'd sit down and break down Bill Hicks' set, going, "Oh, he didn't mean this. He was beyond his time. He was beyond." Oh, you look at
Yes.
Mitch Hedberg. He was so crazy, man. He was in his own head. And then you have people taking LSD to become Mitch Hedberg. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys? And then you have and then you have the other people who say shit because they know it's going to get people upset. And I'm like, come on, man, don't have to do a feminist bit just because. And as you said something sometime earlier, experience, right? Most of these guys don't have an experience on the topics they're talking about, but they're doing it because they know they'll get that shock value, and they might go viral because someone takes a clip and says, oh, this guy said this about this. And oh my God, he gets his 2 seconds of fame.
I
Yeah.
honestly, I 100% believe that there's that phrase, and this is wanky. There's that phrase: "The dawning of knowledge is the realization of ignorance." And I've noticed that the people that are generally better in their field, and I'm not only talking about comedy, I'm talking about medicine. Great example of this. My mom was a nurse, which is great, and obviously we need nurses, etc. And when COVID and the vaccine was coming around, we were talking about this. And I'd had a conversation the day before with one of my mates who is quite a senior surgeon now. And he's written a number of papers. He's like on this breakthrough for kidney cancer. And I talked to him about the vaccine, and I was just like, it's really exciting. How's it work? And he was like, mate, I work in kidney cancer. Like I have literally no idea. Like I
Yeah.
have, I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a virologist. I don't know anything. But I spoke to my mom, who'd like been a sort of general nurse, which is great. And she was like, well, the thing that people don't realize, and there's a guy here, Chris Whitty, who's the chief medical officer. And she genuinely turned around and went, the thing that Chris Whitty has got wrong about the vaccine is, and I was like, wait, mom, I'm going to stop you there. He's got the British Medical Academy behind him. He's got every surgeon, every doctor, every epidemiologist and virologist. I think he's got this one covered. And it does show that the people that are most likely to say, oh, I don't know, are actually probably the ones that are sort of more top of their game, because they're not pretending.